Hi everyone, Tony is here. In this specific video, I would like to talk about the problems related to company registers and UBO registers. From the very beginning, I would like to emphasize that this is my personal opinion. It's not censored by anyone and it can be harsh, but it's totally my opinion. I hear very often from the people who are not involved into AML compliance to a great extent. They think that there are company registers everywhere, and that you just need to aggregate the data and to create, let's say, some kind of a Google in the God mode, and then to type in, let's say, the name of the company. You will get all the information about the company, including the beneficiaries, the shareholders, etc., etc. Well, this is nothing but a myth. So when we are talking about company registers on the global scale, I would say that the best tool in this field is Open Corporates. You can find it on opencorporates.com. It aggregates data from more than 100 million companies drawn from 118 corporate registers from across the globe. So these are all registers available that have at least some information online. So they come from something around 80 countries. 80 countries out of 200 existing UN member states. So it's less than a half. What do we have there, right? The Open Corporates has its own score for company registers. And this score you can basically check how good is the specific register. And depending on the amount of the information and the openness of the data, the score can be 0 or 100. The leaders on the list with, I think, 90, the score 90, is the UK, France, the French dependent territories, state of Washington in the US, Canada, and Cyprus. And among them, only the UK and France will give the information about shareholders and UBOs. So this brings us to what is called the UBO registers. Sometimes they're separate, sometimes they're the same registers as the company registers. If you want to know what is happening on the side of UBO registers, the best pick, I think, would be the platform called Open Ownership. On it, you can access the world map, showing how many countries committed to set up freely accessible and open UBO registers, and how many really succeeded in doing so. And you can check, you can compare how many countries are there. In Europe, really, there are only 5 countries that really did it. So they really created, let's say, fully transparent, fully accessible, free UBO registers that you can use. It's UK, France, Denmark, Latvia, and Ukraine. Yes, Ukraine. Ukraine was actually the first one. It actually started earlier than others. In 2015, just after the revolution of dignity, Ukraine stated that they will create the fully transparent UBO register. Denmark is the one country that not only collects and shares the information about UBOs, but also verifies this information. This is extremely important. So, like foreign UBOs, for example, they undergo full KYC, including like uploading images of ID documents. But for example, UK, which is also on this list, does not do it. I just read a very recent article published on Open Democracy reporting that some fraudsters have stolen identities of several UK governmental officials and used them to create bogus UK companies. This story was first revealed by Graham Barrow, our recent guest. I hope you liked the interview. In a number of publications, he has shown that there have been many weird cases in which the company's house was manifestly misused by unknown people. It's not only stolen identities. Sometimes it's hard to find out that the identity is really stolen. But there are also manifestly fake identities, so nobody really cares what's the name of the person, even if it looks like absolutely fake name. For example, let's say on the company's house, you can still see an officer whose name, it's a Saudi Arabian laborer, and his name is Donald Duck. Or another person with a nice name, Adolf Tooth Fairy Hitler. Or another person, Prince Black God, who gives his occupation as Prince. And even the Holy Jesus Christ, Mr. Holy Jesus Christ, who apparently used to run a small business near Heathrow Airport and gave his occupation as Creator, and his nationality as Angelic, and his country of residence, Heaven. So you can see that Companies House really is misused, obviously, and there's no systemic approach how to cope with this situation. Transparency International has identified at least 17,000 UK companies that have been run by people that had exposure to financial crime in the past or to economic crimes, and 5,000 of these companies, they still remain active. The problem has been addressed many times, but it seems that something is dragging the UK government back from solving this problem, like to find any specific political solution of the problem. Now, after the Pandora paper release, Transparency International has published a call for immediate action addressed to 10 countries, and 5 of them have been called the main enablers of the financial crime, of the global corruption and money laundering. Which countries are they? Australia and New Zealand, Panama, the United Kingdom, and the United States. Yes, the United States. From the Pandora Papers, we now know that it's not only BVI, Seychelles, or Cayman Islands that are known as tax havens, right? But also the United States is a huge tax haven. South Dakota, sleepy state in the Midwest, some place I would say that Coen brothers would like. So this state, South Dakota, was actually turned out to be a very good rival for, let's say, Switzerland and Panama and Cayman Islands. It was offering the trust schemes in which you can really hide anything. Corporations, real estate, yachts, artworks. I mean, maybe even Mount Rushmore could be hidden in these trust schemes. The problem is that in the US, the beneficial ownership is not required to be disclosed, and this information is not publicly available. Sometimes I think that even corporate service providers are not curious enough to get to know who their clients really are. In Europe, conversely, on the other hand, mandatory disclosure of beneficial ownership is specifically expressly required in the EU AML Directive, and in accordance with the Open Data Directive, another regulation on the EU level, all this information should be open and freely accessible. But it isn't. Open Data Directive was adopted 3 years ago, and it was supposed to enter into force last year in 2021. Even the implementation instrument, the document that should be basically the plan for EU members to implement the document, to implement the directive, was not even issued, was not published. In fact, the Open Corporate's CEO is posting angry comments about that. They have made even the open letter supporting the idea of getting into force the EU ML Directive, the Open Data Directive, in order to create UBO registers in all EU member states. So how exactly the EU members, the European countries, tackle the problem of the fact that they are supposed to have open and freely accessible UBO registers? Well, typically they use paywalls. Typically the European register would provide only some basic information about the company, but anything else, anything significant will be basically hidden under the paywall. Check Spain. If you look at the Spain, for example, we put the payments, to find like payments companies, and if you put some information there, try to search, try to find some specific data about specifically shareholders, beneficial owners, it will be paywall. Estonia, again, type in the information, you try to find any information about beneficial owners, yes, please buy this information, paywall. Germany, paywall. Italy, well, Italy is a special case. In Italy, they specifically tell you from the very beginning, buy documents. Buy documents. Well, I really hope that they really all spend all this money that they generated from paywalls on, I don't know, feeding the homeless children, because I don't see any other way how can they justify this ridiculousness of this policy of having paywalls. I mean, paywalls basically deter all the automated ways how to analyze, collect, and analyze big data. And without this analysis of big data, you cannot really put any impediment for dirty money to go back and forth, because you will not see the big picture. You will not see the big schemes, and usually they're global, international schemes of companies that are engaged in money laundering, and you don't see how they are connected to each other. The same approach, by the way, the paywalls, is used by offshore jurisdictions. Right now we know that many offshores, to look at least to a certain extent better in the eyes of the global community, they say, okay, we will set up UBO registers, we will set up company registers, but in the end of the day, they will make them secret or accessible only upon payment. A huge enough payment to discourage any persons who would be snooping around. Take BVI, for example. Let's put BVI, and again, like, okay, a keyword, payments. And you will see that the paywall, okay, it's $159 for the company information. And this will not include shareholders and BVI and UBOs, because BVI says that it doesn't have this information. So the bottom line is that despite the FATF recommendation 24, it's about the disclosure of beneficial owners, despite all efforts, political efforts, to make international businesses more transparent in the name of fighting corruption, in the name of fighting money laundering, terrorist financing, financing the rotten regimes that are now destroying some of their neighbors. Despite all of these efforts, dirty money is still circulating around the global economy. But we know the politicians who are blaming crypto for that. Why crypto? Oh, that's an irony. Maybe it's because some of these politicians have a chance to be caught in the next Pandora Papers. I will not make any conclusions for you. You can see that even though we have so many online registers and Open Corporates provides you, let's say, 80 registers or something from 80 jurisdictions, there are some countries that are saying that they have, let's say, UBO registers available, etc., etc. The real share of the transparent the real transparent share of the global economy is not very huge. And obviously, like I would say, in more than half of the global economy, you will not have sufficient information in the registers. That's the situation, how it is in reality. No conclusions from my side, but how do you think? Given the fact that we have all these instruments available, given the fact that it's very easy to take this political decision to open up the UBO register, to start sharing it with everyone, especially for those circumstances when you have all this information under paywall or in secret. Given the fact that you have specific laws and regulations, directives saying, please set up this UBO register, please make it publicly available, make it free to use. Why we have so few countries that really succeeded in having this in place? What is it? Is it some kind of a global paradox? Or maybe it's just a simple human hypocrisy? Thanks for watching this video. If you liked it, please subscribe. Please leave comments. Please, we need your likes, of course. And let's keep in touch. And take care.